Welcome to Unity in Under 5. We're going to show you some great scripts that you can write for Unity in less than 5 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about a following in an object. So let's say that you have any type of object in your scene, whether that be a static object or an animated object, and you want it to follow another object around as it moves. So if you want something to follow a player around or to follow a different object around, kind of a magnetic type of feel, this script will work for you. So let's go ahead and create that script. We're going to call it follow object, and then we're going to open it in our script editor. Because we don't necessarily want this to happen always on start, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the on start, but we're going to leave the update function. We're going to add in some options because sometimes you may want the game object to rotate towards the object that it's following, and sometimes you may not. It depends on your object. So we're going to give those options in the inspector. So the first thing we want is a public transform target. This public method is going to allow you to set what object you want the other object to follow. The next thing we're going to do is add a public bool to enable rotation. This will allow you to choose whether or not you want to have the object rotate towards the target. If you want it, you can click. So this was going to allow us to enable movement. So if you just wanted to rotate, you could click the true on the rotate and uncheck the box for the movement. Now we need to put in what kind of speed we want each one to have. How fast do you want it to rotate? How fast do you want it to move toward the target object? What we've done here is created a public float, one called rotation speed, one called movement speed. This will allow you to set how fast you want it to go, and we're just going to set them at 5 initially. The last thing you want to be able to do is to lock the Y position. So that way, if you have a character or an object that moves in one direction and you want it to stay on the surface or stay in one position, you can lock its Y transform so that it doesn't lift and go up and down. So we'll just set that lock Y position to false, and you can check it to true if you want it to lock the Y position. So now we need to create our update, and we need to create what we want. So we have to calculate that target. So the first thing we're going to do is calculate the target by putting in a vector 3. So what we've done here is created a vector 3 that basically says the target position minus the transform position. That will make it so that your object will follow its target. And then we put in a separate one for the direction of Y so that we can lock that position. So the second thing we need is to set that rotation. So what we've done in this one is we've set the quaternion to the target rotation so it will rotate towards that target. And we've also set it to have this delta time so that you can set how fast that target is going to rotate. Now we need to calculate the movement so that last thing we need to do is have it check for whether or not the enable rotation and the enable a movement are set to true or false. So the first one here is the public void enable rotation bool enable. The second one is to the enable the movement. That way, if that is checked, it will enable the target to move. So now that this is set up, we go ahead and save. Now first we're going to use this character here, the skeleton. So let's look at it real quickly. When we turn him on, he's just going to stand there in place and walk because I have this apply root motion unchecked. You want to make sure you do that if you're using this for a character that's moving. Okay, so now we've put the follow object script on here. The first thing we have to do is set the target. So the target is going to be this cube here. So we're going to drag that over and drop it in. Without that target, it's not going to do anything. We're going to enable the rotation and the movement. We're going to put the rotation speed, how fast he turns, at 1, and we're going to put the movement speed at 0.02 because 5 is very fast. And then we're going to lock the Y position so that he stays on the ground and doesn't lift up and down. So now that that's there, when we click the start button, you're going to notice that the skeleton is going to turn and start moving towards that object. Now, if this object is an object that moves, if I slide this over here, the character moves over there. If I slide it down here, he heads in this direction. No matter where I bring this cube, that character is going to follow it in every direction. And this will work whether it's a character that looks like it's moving or whether it's just a simple game object that will move along as well. It's going to work for any game object.